Hi, everybody. Welcome to the PC Perspective Podcast. This is episode 248, being recorded on April the 24th, 2013. I'm Ryan Schrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Allyn Malentano.
I can never tell if Josh is serious. Josh is never serious at the intro, but you never know what voice intonation he's going to have.
No.
It keeps things, spices it up a little bit, I guess. So we're starting a little bit late. If you joined us in the live stream, thanks for being here. Just right off the bat, just in case you're curious, we record the show on Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. You can join us at pcper.com/live for the pre-show and post-show fun and excitement. There's actually fun and excitement there. So we've got a week's worth of stuff to catch up on, but first, we're going to talk about our Indiegogo project. If you missed last week, you may have missed out on an important announcement. We had launched a crowdfunding project with Indiegogo.com with the intention of rebuilding our video production setup, rebuilding our sets that we don't really have any, so building sets for the first time. And we decided after about a year or more of trying to gather enough funds for this and doing it the right way that we would go ahead to our fans and ask, do you guys want to see this? And if so, what can we give you in exchange for money that makes sense? And to be completely honest with you, I think the
most of those things were illegal.
They were, so we had to change it. And now you get like T-shirts. Sorry, they're less exciting than what we had up there before, but rules are rules. But what I was going to say is I think everybody on the team is quite, I don't want to say surprised, but humbled by the response that we had in essentially what is our first week of a 30-day crowdfunding thing. So we had set up our goal at 10,000, and that was like the first level of our goals, but we wanted to make sure that we set something that we thought was reasonable and attainable. And as of tonight, we had over $11,000 donated by listeners and viewers and readers, and we really can't thank you guys enough for that. It's a pretty awesome thing to know that, we always know that there are people watching and listening and reading, but to know that they actually pay attention and, believe it or not, they like some of the crap that we talk about is good to see. It's cool. We do have some new perks. We sold out of our $1,000 perks, which was awesome. So we're looking forward to that. We added some new ones like if you want to play against me in Fatality, or you want to team up with Fatality against me in a game, you can do that. You want to come visit the office and have Ken buy you lunch, buy us all lunch, we'll do that as well. Come join on the podcast. You still do the Skype calls. We have the Gold Club, which was our most popular perk so far. Check that out. You can see that's at pcper.com/gold club if you want to see what all that's about. And it's really cool. I'm very excited about what has happened. I had a couple of people on Twitter message me saying, "Hey,
this is crazy. Here's my money.
I just met you.
Let me visit you, maybe."
It's like you're going to cross the 10,000 mark, and I haven't been able to donate yet. Am I still going to be able to? And we're incredibly thankful for the people that have funded. But if you haven't done so yet, there's still time for you to get in there. There's 20-something days left of this campaign, and we have other goals, right? So our first goal was the 10,000 mark. Our second goal was the 20,000 mark. And if you go to the Indiegogo page, if you go to pcper.com, you look on the right-hand side of the site, you'll see a picture of me with our Indiegogo kind of project link, and you can scroll down there and you can see what our stretch goal at 20,000 was, what it got us, what it will change, and in reality, what it allows us to do from a practical point of view, from where our viewers would be impacted, is we can produce more shows quicker and in a more timely basis, allowing us to produce more content for you guys just in general across the board.
And over 20,000, it's going to go straight to my laser treatment therapy.
Right. He's finally going to get rid of those hair follicles that have been taunting him on the top of his head for so long. But seriously, we can't thank you enough for where we're at now. I'm excited about. We have 23 days left, and we can cross beyond 20,000 mark. We have all these great ideas of what we can do with this money, and it's super awesome. So thank you guys who have donated. Thank you guys who are considering donating, and keep us in mind. We'll give you an update next week. So that's cool. Like I said, the whole team thanks you for that. I guess we should talk about hardware and stuff now too. Josh, anybody have anything they want to add on that subject?
Just thanks. Wow.
Yeah, blew me away.
Wow.
And in a good way.
It was funny. I remember the night we launched it, or I guess it was the second day, right? It was the night we launched it, and we went. Me and Ken and Matt and my wife were out at dinner, and I told her, yeah, we went ahead and launched this thing, and we had like $1,000-something in there at dinner time or something. And she said, yeah, I think you guys are going to get this in a week. And I was like, look, I'm not going to set any expectations and that kind of stuff. I said, if we do, that's great, but if not, I'm being realistic about this. And sure enough, almost to the T, it was a week that we hit that mark. So, damn it, she was right.
Have your wife go buy more lottery tickets.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so let's talk about hardware. The big story this week was the Radeon HD 7990. Its final triumphant release to the world after 14 or 15 months of waiting.
And a name change. Went from New Zealand to Malta.
Yes, yeah. Is Malta an island part of New Zealand?
No.
No?
Oh, good Lord. You wouldn't do well on the blue Trivial Pursuit questions, would you?
I would not. Geography and me. I thought there was a connection between those two, but no. New Zealand was supposed to be the family, and then there was
New Zealand
Malta was
comprised
the
of
consumer.
2 islands.
Yeah.
Get it?
I don't like it.
Whatever.
So the 7990 launch. This is a dual Tahiti graphics card, 6 gigs of memory. That's 3 gigs per GPU, so it's not quite like the Titan single GPU 6 gig frame buffer. You like that photo on my video, guys? Ken called it was a little derpy.
Jeez.
But nothing really new on the specs. It actually runs a little bit slower than a 7970 gigahertz edition. Actually, I can't believe I left that data out of it. I had made a graph of the clock rates, the clock speeds of the 7970 and the 7990. And the 7990 consistently ran 50 to 100 megahertz slower under load periods, I guess. And I think that's just, there's a little bit more thermal throttling, there's a little bit more power consideration in regard to the dual GPU version of the card, which happens on the 690 compared to the 680 and that kind of stuff as well. I don't know where we can really go with this this conversation, because the 7990 as presented to us today with the driver that will be publicly available in the next week or so, the 13.5 beta driver.
They're out today.
Oh, it's out today? Okay.
Yep.
That's the driver that we used for our initial testing, and it didn't turn out great, right? It's we talked about the 79, like a theoretical 7990 that we were emulating with a pair of HD 7970s in Crossfire mode when we did some of our frame rating analysis iteration articles and that kind of stuff, and it didn't look great there because of all the issues with Crossfire. That still is the case with the HD 7990 as a final product today. And it's impressive from an engineering standpoint, right? If I kind of skipped over. If you look at the pictures here, it still follows the red and black scheme. I will say for sure that this design doesn't look nearly as cool as the Titan or the GTX 690 from just a pure aesthetic point of view. It does have 5 outputs natively supported on there. You can see the 2 GPUs on the back. You also notice, if you look right here, the PCIe power connectors are raised a little bit above the flush line of the cooler, and that's just so it's easier to get the connectors on and off for power. It does support Crossfire still. There's those ATX power connectors again. It is longer than both the Titan and the GTX 690 by about a full inch. That's
compensating?
Not so much a Titan, is it?
The Titan is... and here's the card, and it's naked, I guess. You see the two full-size Tahiti GPUs on that, and a lot of cool stuff, right? So from an engineering standpoint, it's pretty awesome. It's $999, which is pretty much exactly what he expected it to be. And so in our review, we wanted to see, okay, what is the HD 7990 compared to 7970s in Crossfire? Because you can get 7970s in Crossfire for about $70 less than a single 7990. There are trade-offs, of course, but you save a little bit of money there. Then we compare to the 690 and the Titan, both $999 graphics cards. This is the the rich guy's graphics card review, to be sure. The problem with the results was the frame pacing issues, the lack of frame metering with the 7990 and all of the currently available drivers. So you have the same thing. So I'll just show you one result. If we look at 2560 by 1440 on Battlefield 3, the orange line that represents the 7970 Crossfire, the black line represents the 7990, and you can see the difference between our kind of fraps frame rate and our observed frame rate. And then we scroll down here and you see why. The 7990 exhibits the same alternating high frame time, low frame time results, and it causes a lot of runt frames. It causes a lot of animation issues. The same things that we've been showing you guys videos on for a long time. It all applies to the 7990 because the 7990 is 2 GPUs on the same card, but it depends on Crossfire the same way that 2 physical cards depend on Crossfire. That's just something that they had to come to grips with, and that's unfortunate. So that's what we saw in game performance. If we look at let's look at power consumption. Maybe there's some good news here. The 7990 uses much less power than the 7970s in Crossfire, but it uses a lot more than the 690 and especially the Titan. I mean, you're talking, what is that, 80, 90 watts difference between the GTX 690 and the Radeon HD 7990, and then 147 watts compared to the Titan. So that's a huge difference. Not great news. Now, the sound levels are a bit of a sticking point for me because one of the big things that AMD talked about in their presentation was the 7990 is quieter than the Titan. It's quieter than your average library setting, and I saw none of that experience. It was much quieter than previous generation Radeon cards. It's quieter than a single 7970 reference. It's much quieter than the 7970 Crossfire that we have here. And it's pretty close to the 690, but it's not really that close to the GTX Titan. So, and actually, I was kind of worried that our results were somehow wrong. And I looked at several other articles that looked at noise, and many of them had the same result, where it was much better than any other AMD design, but nowhere near as good as they claimed to be. So I don't know exactly what their metrics were kind of based on. So the conclusion of my review of the 7990 as it stood today when it launched, technically, on Wednesday, was that if this card were available and you had $1,000, it would be third on my list of cards to recommend of the 3 out there. I would probably recommend the 690 or the Titan first, depending on your display configuration, and then the 7990. The 7990 has potential, but it has some issues with the frame rating stuff that we've gone over many times here. If you're new, if you're listening to us for the first time and you don't know what frame rating is, go read the 7990 article that we have up. There will be several links in there to our first frame rating dissection article. It talks about how we test graphics cards very differently than most people are testing graphics cards today, and you'll see why we have these issues with it. Now, I will note, I guess I haven't mentioned it so far. Where's that at? It's in the pricing area, I guess. Where did I put it? Oh, maybe it's on the first page. The bundle that you get with the HD 7990 is awesome. The game bundle. You get, let me bring up the full-size image here. You get Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon, Crysis 3, BioShock Infinite, Tomb Raider, Far Cry 3, Hitman Absolution, Sleeping Dogs, and Deus Ex. You get 8 games for buying this card. You get you buy a $1,000 card, you get 8 games. That's a much better deal in terms of free software than the 690 or the Titan, where you get 1 game. You get Metro Last Light, a good game, but BioShock is great, Crysis is pretty good, Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon looks awesome, Tomb Raider's pretty good, Far Cry 3 is pretty good, Hitman, Sleeping Dogs, and Deus Ex are a little bit older, but they're pretty good games. So that they're continuing to be super aggressive when it comes to getting you guys free software in that regard. But it was hard for me to really get super excited about it, to say the least, because of the performance issues. Which leads us to our second story. All of that being said, AMD came to me on Thursday or Friday, late in the week last week, and said, hey, we've got a magic surprise for you. It's a prototype driver. And we had been working with AMD for a long time about these frame pacing issues, and they said, we're going to fix it. It's going to take some time, though, so be patient with us. And I can only be we're being patient, but we're not going to recommend a product to people, especially a $1,000 product to people that depends on Crossfire technology if it's not working yet. And they understood that. But they wanted to get us a early look at what they're doing. So basically, without getting into too much detail, if you want more detail, check out the article. It's called Frame Rating. AMD Improves Crossfire with Prototype Driver. Very descriptive title, I thought. So they're basically completely rewriting the Catalyst driver to implement frame pacing algorithms. It is a very drastic change to the software model they're on. And because of that, this driver that we're testing is actually based on 13.2 Catalyst, not 13.3, 4, or 5. So some of the so there's a little bit of performance issue in general because of the difference there. But they have basically implemented a software algorithm that attempts to look at frame times. If the frame times are they measure frame time and they can insert delays into the successive frame rendering requests going back to the game engine, the present call as it is. And while it may sound kind of weird to introduce delay, what they're simply doing is trying to even out the frames, which is what NVIDIA does on the 690, what NVIDIA does on all SLI configurations, and actually they do it in hardware as of the Kepler design. AMD is now starting to do that.
Kepler or Fermi?
Kepler. It is Kepler. Did I say Fermi someplace in the story?
No, I thought that they originally had hardware implementation in Fermi, but you're probably right.
I remember I clarified with them on Monday which one it was.
Okay.
Because I wasn't 100% sure either. So they got us this driver, and if you look at this diagram here, that Scott made up for us, it tries to demonstrate what it is. This top part right here is an unmetered situation. The top line is actually kind of what you would see on the screen. These two lines below it, GPU 1 and 2, are outputted frames from those two cards. And as you see, when they're unmetered and they're able to go as fast as they can, you tend to cut off the frame before way too early. By metering it, you get actual, better, smoother frame rates. And actually, this diagram needs to be changed probably a little bit because you're not getting a lower frame rate. You're just getting more even distribution of those frames. So while it kind of looks like there's 6 frames being shown in unmetered and 4 in metered, we should actually even that out a little bit so that it's like 6 and 6. But the 6 on the meter section are significantly more even. And so here's a tease. That's not a tease. We have the whole article up, but here's a result of it working correctly. So the orange line is the 7990 with a 13.5 beta driver, and you see the masses of orange on our frame times that represent all of the issues that we've been talking about. The blue and the green are still NVIDIA, 690 and Titan, but look at the black line. The black line is the same HD 7990 with a different driver, the prototype driver that they sent us. And look at the band of black representing that frame time, those frame times. It's significantly improved. It's not as good as the GTX 690 still. They still have a lot of work to do, and on particular in some different games, but they have made a drastic improvement in what they're doing. And we even have some videos here. Crysis 3. We have the YouTube video. You can see it in the YouTube video, but I highly recommend you guys download the MP4 file from Mega, which is right underneath it there, so you can see it. It plays back at 60 frames per second, so you can get a good side-by-side, and it shows what the animation looks like. Even though the average frame rates are reported as the same, you get to see the animation differences in that way, and it's pretty compelling. We saw differences in Battlefield 3, in Crysis 3, in Far Cry 3, and Sleeping Dogs. Fairly good results, like better than they had tipped us off to. They wanted us to be very cautious about the driver, and there were a lot of issues with it. It was very unstable. We ran into some other kind of quirks, but it has not gone through any of the quality control. This is very, very early. They wanted to get this out to kind of prove to people, especially on the launch day of the 7990, that they are spending the time to work at this problem, and they've done a good job. I mean, this is another great graph, right? Look at the Sleeping Dogs result, where it was awful on the 13.5 beta driver. But if you look at that black line representing the prototype driver, it's much better. And actually, if you look at this graph underneath it, now this is kind of showing you average frame rates. If you look at this 50th percentile here, because of that, look at the jump that the orange line goes from to the black line. You're talking about a 28 frames per second average result to like a 51 or a 52 of perceived frame rate. That's a huge difference. So, does this change my recommendation of the 7990? I would say no, not today, because this driver is far from being a consumer-ready piece of software. There's a lot of issues that need to be worked out. Also, why I'm not 100% sold on it yet is this does not affect Eyefinity at all. This is only single monitor configurations. And the reasons for that are complex. I'll get into it in another story at a later time. Has to do with the different hardware versus software compositing engines that Crossfire uses. But this only affects single monitor configurations. If you use Crossfire plus Eyefinity, you see no advantages, no changes from the problems we have seen previously. But as I say at the end of this article, it's a great start for AMD's Crossfire. I almost allude to it being like a rebirth of the technology. I feel like we shot it down, it was dead, it was wounded. I cut off its wings or something like that on the ground over the last 2 months, but it grew back like a phoenix or something like that. That's pretty dramatic, isn't it?
Pretty much.
Yeah.
You know, I did
don't
see
worry,
one.
once they finally finish it, we'll change all the backgrounds of our charts to orange just for posterity's sake.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, I was going to say, I found one major problem with this is how are you going to have 4 deep if you don't have one big guy in the back?
Oh, how am I going to show 4 results? It's true.
Yeah, they're all going to be covering each other.
Yes, and we'll deal with that. I would much rather have that, right? So it's so funny because this article came out, and this article has gotten a lot more attention than our review of the 7990 itself, because I think people are more interested in these changes. And we had a lot of people give us a bunch of crap for our initial reviews about being biased and paid NVIDIA stooges and all this other kind of crap, right? And all we're they're like, oh, this is not even a real problem. How could Crossfire be this bad and nobody ever see it?
You're a shill.
Yeah, but if it's like, okay, now AMD has spent literally, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of engineering dollars probably to fix this problem, because now they were able to see it, and now through our methods they were able to detect it.
Do you think NVIDIA sent them
a capture card
and the capture card?
No, I know they didn't, because this is not this. They've asked me for, hey, what happens if you try this, right? And let me see some, send them back some results and that kind of stuff. So I still don't think that they're doing this capture stuff in house or anything yet. I hope they do soon, because I want them to be on top of it, right? I want them to figure it out. The difference in the software solution from AMD means that we have to be more vigilant as reviewers to catch things where they might start to falter. Every game needs to be adjusted for it. Each driver revision that comes out could potentially do it. Different settings can change it. There's a lot more. There's still a lot more we're going to work on. I mean, we're still going to test Radeon Pro. We're still going to test 4K. We're actually doing 4K testing right now. I think that's what Matt's doing back there. And we're also doing, what the hell else are we doing?
How's the third-party FCAT stuff coming along? Have you tried some of that? You tried some of that earlier.
So actually, I'm not even using the NVIDIA overlay anymore. We're actually using the Precision X integration with what's that? Riva Tuner. They call it like a statistics server or something like that, and they have implemented an overlay. So we're actually running that. It actually works a little bit better than the NVIDIA overlay. For
nice.
I mean, that's kind of like, that was the major sticking point for some people, is like, oh, are you using these NVIDIA developed applications? Well, now the main application that runs on the test system is developed by a third party. So, there should be no issues. I use that for all the 7990 testing and results with all those AMD and NVIDIA cards. So, good.
I've got to admit, even though they're bitter enemies, and they compete against each other tooth and nail, it is still really cool that NVIDIA put this stuff out for, guys like Reaver Tuner, and I can't remember the other, group that does this stuff to integrate into their own programs so everybody could have access to it.
It's going back a year when we started working on this stuff. That was the whole idea, was that they wanted to develop this and kind of open source it, release it to the community. And I was very hesitant to believe that they would ever do anything like that, because NVIDIA as a company in general does not act in that fashion. They're not one to share, intellectual property, internal developments. That's kind of been the philosophical difference between AMD and NVIDIA for the most part. But I was able to, through conversations, say, if you guys want it to be taken seriously, it has to be opened up. You have to be able to share it with people. People need to be able to look through all those Perl scripts. They need to be able to look through, the code that we're doing and the overlay, and see that we're not changing things on the backside of the game engine. And they did. It was a little bit more effort than I thought it was going to be to kind of push that. I'm still trying to get the source code to the overlay to kind of be opened up in a more dramatic way, but I think they've done much better than I kind of expected them to ever do.
And boy, does it help everybody.
It has. Even the people that bitched at me, if they watch those videos of Crysis 3 before and after, this is what you got before, this is what you got after we, and not just me, but other people said, hey, fix your shit, because now we can tell and, in an analytical way, determine that yours is piss poor, right? And they took offense to it at first. They went through all 5 stages of grief. There was denial, acceptance, and they moved on to all those different things, and now they're on to fixing it. I don't think that's one of those groups, but or one of those steps. So let's move on. We talked about this way too much. We got other news crap to talk about. Maury, who loves his motherboards, posted a review of the Gigabyte Z77N Wi-Fi Mini ITX motherboard. We have tested quite a bit of Mini ITX motherboards recently. This one is, I would say, probably one of the least expensive, $129 for this motherboard. But it has decent features. It still has full-size PCIe by 16. It's got Wi-Fi, dual LAN, dual HDMI, 1 fuse per USB port. Yeah. Dual HDMI. That's kind of cool. It's interesting. Lots of great features on this board. It's a modest overclocker based on his reporting. It does a pretty good job, but it lacks some of the options. It doesn't have nearly the kind of power phase control that the ASUS one has, but the ASUS one is significantly more expensive as well. So there's a lot to like on this board. Mini ITX systems. This is a funny picture. This is nuts. That's
a rather large cooler.
This is the Noctua NH-D14 sitting on a Mini ITX motherboard, and you can see
It works.
you can do it.
That's kind of like Ken's girlfriend.
It's too big. It'll never
him.
fit.
Top heavy.
Well,
It kind of, I don't think you can use the DIMM slots in that way, or
Neither can, but
or the PCI Express slots. But it's funny for sizing aspects in that way. So if you're looking for a Mini ITX platform, check it out. It's a pretty good offering, and definitely in the lower end of pricing as well. Now, Josh, let's talk with Josh quickly about AMD releasing another generation of G-Series embedded products. What is this, and why do I care?
you don't care unless
All right,
you
I'm
like
gone.
watching TV. Or you got a Blu-ray player.
I have a 4K TV. Does that count?
I don't know. Does it?
I don't
I don't think it has AMD silicon in there.
It does not.
But they're hoping to get their silicon in there.
All right.
Now, the G series is the embedded processors from AMD. They've had these for a couple of years. The first generation was Bobcat, but we didn't hear a whole lot about it because, well, it was, it's an okay product. It was a great for a netbook, pretty decent for the really low-end notebooks. Was not really appropriate for tablets or anything else than that. Performance-wise, it was good for a dual-core 40-nanometer product. It had good graphics performance for its size and power, but it really wasn't what a lot of guys were looking for. It was a two-chip product. You had the CPU and the GPU, well, the APU, and then it had the media control center or media control hub, whatever they want to call it. And so it was a two-chip design. They sold these to a handful of embedded groups, and it was an okay moneymaker for them, just not great. I mean, it was able to handle some pretty significant temperatures up to, I think, 90 degrees Celsius, but it was not a huge thing. But they did make some inroads. Now they're hoping that this latest version that they're sending out, based on the Jaguar core, is going to improve their situation here in the embedded market. Jaguar, as you know, is the next generation of Bobcat core. It's an out-of-order dual and quad-core product. It's made on 28-nanometer process. It adds about 6 to 13% improvement in performance per clock, depending on what kind of work you're doing. The graphics portion went from VLIW5 to GCN, and so it's a much more advanced graphics process. So when you put all these things together, and also add in a lot of the I/O functions, you've got a single chip that is a SoC. It's a system on a chip, and they are now pushing these into the embedded market. At the top part, they've got a 25-watt product running at 2 gigahertz, and I think the graphics portion is running at some 600 megahertz. The performance is very, very good for this product, and at 25 watts, it's not too bad. And then we go down to 15 watts, and it goes all the way down to 9 watts with a dual-core product with a slower clocked GCN graphics unit. Again, it's a system on a chip. It's a single chip. It's going to be easier for a lot of guys to implement this on their products. AMD is really aiming for kind of infotainment systems with this. If you've watched TVs over the past several years, you've seen how improvements in the user interface has gone. It used to be just bars that you'd highlight and do whatever, and now we're in these areas where it only it starts to look kind of 3D. You've got all kinds of menu options and graphics and smooth scrolling. Well, we're going to see kind of a bigger leap in the interactivity with the user and these products that AMD is really trying to get in there with these new G series of embedded APUs, SoCs. So if you think about it, with GCN, they're able to do up to OpenCL 1.2. I think we're going to start seeing a lot more reliance on these products with OpenCL. Because if you think about it, we've seen some really basic gesture control TVs. They don't work real well, but we're going to see improvements there. And this APU, or SoC that AMD wants to call it, can handle that because it's a quad-core, it's got the GCN architecture, it's highly programmable, it's got a lot of performance, it's 28-nanometer part, it's not putting out a whole lot of heat, it's not pulling a whole lot of power, but it's a well-performing part for what it is, and it's really kind of made to order for a lot of these applications, especially when you consider PS4 is going to be Jaguar-based. The Xbox 720, we don't know what it's going to be called yet. Again, Jaguar-based with GCN architecture. How many hooks are we going to see in software into these things? It wouldn't surprise me if a next-generation TV based on these parts will have integrated 3D games that you can just fart around with. You can have user interfaces when searching around in Netflix and Hulu and looking at all your different photos and music through the TV. It's going to be wonderfully rendered on the TV just natively. And so this is an area that AMD really wants to push into because they just have not had a whole lot of luck in the past 40 years competing head-to-head with Intel.
Do you think they screwed up years ago by selling off their TV division?
Adreno? Yes. Yeah, I think everybody kind of figures that one. That was a bad call.
That was dumb.
Yeah, they could have been.
Because they had a good market share at the time, didn't they? Yeah, they had good
Hard-
market share in those places.
They did. And yeah, if they could have been where Imagination Technologies is now, of course, they can't because Intel would never buy a graphics portion from AMD. But still,
Right.
Samsung, they're a big guy. Qualcomm, they would be buying it from them. Yeah, it was a bad move to sell Adreno.
No, it wasn't Adreno. Somebody in the chat room is correcting us. It was the Imagion.
Yes, well, Imagineon was the division. Adreno was the product.
Oh, okay. All right. Fair enough. Cool. I don't know. We'll see. Do you think there is it just semantics at this point for APU versus SoC?
Well, no, because APUs in general are just the CPU GPU portion, while the I/O portion is on a separate chip.
Fair enough.
But an SoC, it integrates that in. Instead of having like the A85X, you've got 8 SATA 6G ports. Well, the SoC, it only has 2 SATA 6G ports, or you can downgrade that to SATA 3G if you want to save a little power. So it's not fully.
Right, that's why there's Tegra and Tesla as well.
No, I don't know what
One
you're
is
talking
actually
about,
a
Jeremy.
true SoC, or at least it will be.
Well, no, Tesla's a workstation GPU product. Tegra is system on a
Essentially
chip.
an SoC.
What are you talking about, Jeremy?
No.
Drinking
not
too
Tesla.
much scotch?
Tegra. Well,
Tegra
and
versus
Tesla.
Tesla.
Yes.
Tesla's their big GPU that they put in high performance computing. It's based on their GPUs, while
Whereas
Tegra
Tegra,
is
they're looking at
the
turning it
ARM.
into a full system on a chip.
Yeah, but
Yes.
not all Tegras are a full SoC.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
That's
true.
where I was going with that. Sorry,
Semantics.
badly stated.
all Tegras are not SoC. I guess.
What the Tegra 4 doesn't have everything integrated, but the Tegra 4i does.
Yeah. And Tegra 5 will.
I think it's semantics again. It's
Yeah.
all right, we'll move on.
Yeah.
All right, so this is normally the place in the show where we have an advertisement. We don't have any. Blame Alex. Sorry, guys. I will instead remind you to check out our Indiegogo project page and support PC Perspective that way, directly rather than indirectly by liking advertisements on the site or on our video. Let's get into news. We're running late. We've mentioned it to you several times. I alluded to it. We have a 4K TV in-house. A Seiki is how you pronounce it, not how I actually pronounce it in the video.
Did they ever get back to you over Twitter?
No.
Those buggers.
But don't worry, we found the master service menu anyway without their help. We can break
Was
it all we
the
want now.
combination 1, 2, 3, 4?
It was 0, 0, 0, 0, 0.
And better.
So we bought a 4K TV, guys, and it was only $1,300 at the time. I think it's $1,500 now. Actually, I can see. I can click this link here. It'll take us to TigerDirect.com, which is where we ordered said TV from. It's $14.99. Still shows us in stock, which I'm kind of surprised. I thought they would have sold out by now. But anyway, it's a 50-inch TV, 4K resolution, 3840 by 2160. And over HDMI 1.4a, you could run that resolution at 30 hertz. And we are currently doing that as we record this. I keep saying Ken is testing, but it's Matt is testing. We're actually running, just to make everybody jealous, we have Titans and SLI running. What game are we on, Matt? Make one up. What are we on? We're on Crysis 3. Far Cry 3 on Titans SLI at 3840 by 2160. So there you go. Boom. What do you think about that?
Has it burned out his retinas yet?
No, not yet. It hasn't burned any retinas out. So we did a short preview, kind of an unboxing, hook it up, let's see what it looks like type thing, live video, and then we posted it. Ironically, this picture is funny because we downloaded some content from, where is this video from? I don't remember. It was some 4K sample video.
Sweetpuppies.com.
I wish. And it was just like video of puppies, and it was my favorite 4K video. But the funny thing about this picture is now being used for people on eBay auctions selling off their Seiki 50-inch 4K TV. And when you look at the picture, it looks good. It looks like one of those pictures you see in a commercial where it says screen images have been simulated type of thing, you know?
This has not been simulated.
This has not been
if you know what I
simulated.
mean.
It's like real life, guys. It's like real life.
It was tested on animals, but
So
Yeah, you just don't want to put like Gianna Michaels in 4K. That would be
Cool.
bad.
if you watch the video of the unboxing, which was on Friday, I guess, Thursday, I had some complaints about some image quality issues, some flickering when playing the games that we seem to have fixed by adjusting noise reduction and sharpness levels and menus and stuff like that. So I'm a little bit more confident now in kind of being able to recommend people purchase this kind of monitor slash TV for $1,300. I mean, this is essentially just barely over the price of a Dell 30-inch panel, right?
And it's a 50-inch.
No, a Dell 30-inch panel is going to still $1,200, isn't it?
At least.
Yeah, a
Goes
30,
Yeah.
down, but
3009 or something like that, or 3008. So this is not much more than that. It's a totally different type of device, obviously, but it can do some very cool things. And so far, my Windows experience using it has actually been pretty good. Just like I kind of thought the 30 hertz would be an eye issue, but it hasn't really been an issue. So check that
You
out.
know what? If you grew up on CRTs,
yeah.
it's still pretty damn good. Monochrome.
Allyn,
Big green characters.
Allyn, are you jealous of my TV? Because I know you always brag about your smart TV. My TV's dumb, but it's got 4 times as many pixels.
I will say this. At the Samsung thing, I saw that 4K. It was probably like the first 4K TV I truly just sat there and like looked at, but this one was like a OLED 4K.
Oh, yeah.
But just the fact that it was 4K at all, the sharpness of it was just insane. I mean, really.
It's it's funny, you know. So we get into issues of like image interpolation, all that kind of crap. The best 4K videos I've seen are ones that are running in slow motion,
Yeah.
right? So they're 120 hertz, 120 frames per 120 frame per second, like 4K videos recorded on Red, and they play back at half speed. I've got a video of a guy from Intel racing his car, a train that's like slow motion steam coming out of it and stuff like that. And then the puppies video is in slow motion too, and it looks impressive to watch.
I mean, any arguments that people try to make about like, oh, but if you're sitting this close to a 1080p, blah blah. No, sorry. If you have 20/20 vision, you're going to notice a difference.
And there's a lot of people that are. What I'm excited about this TV is even more so is that because it's so cheap, a lot of these kind of TV enthusiasts are buying it. If you go to AVS forums, what's that Red forum called? It's the Red Camera User Forum. People are buying these TVs and they're finding out, hey, like we saw a forum post today of somebody who was able to push 720p at 133 hertz to the TV. Right, and so they're experimenting with it because it's so cheap, and they're finding out these cool things that they can do with it. So, I'm not saying everybody should go buy one of these because I don't review TVs, and I don't want to claim that this is a great TV in general. But for 4K resolution experimental fun, it's pretty awesome.
So, Alan, you thought you liked them smart, but it turns out you like them dumb and good looking?
You know, you can buy a $100 Blu-ray player and give it all of the smart TV stuff that you ever really need.
Yeah, you're talking about like Netflix and Hulu and all that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah,
All the other Crackle, free TV, all
this
that.
This is very much like a monitor. There's no add-on features. I'm not even sure there's a scaler in it. I mean, there is. It's who's SoC? Is it a Realtek? Is that which one we looked at? A SoC that's powering it. We're gonna maybe take the back of it.
Okay, so if you take the pixel pitch of that display,
Yeah.
right, and you scale it down to the equivalent of my 30-inch Dell
Yep.
that
Yeah,
I'm looking at right now,
2560.
right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not far off. It's
I
like
wouldn't think so.
yeah, it's basically almost spot on
Yep.
to that. Because I'm 2560 across, that screen's 3840 across. It's a 50, I'm a 30, right? So it's basically like you can just.
Alan, I rate you at a 10.
You know, in some circles, I'm a 7.5.
Yeah.
All right, Alan.
So did you
Go ahead.
Did you just try just sitting this down and just as if it was like a monitor?
What do you mean? I mean, it's hooked up to computers. Oh, like
No, he's got a guy that does that for
like
him.
close to it.
But try to actually use it as if it was a desktop.
Not yet. I mean, we've kind of done it because we turn on the computer and we manipulate files around while we're doing graphics testing and that kind of deal.
Well, I guess the important question is if you're sitting at that regular distance, which is only like 3 feet from it.
Oh,
whatever.
yeah, that might be a little much.
Well, aside from
Just from the size in general.
aside from the neck cramps that
Yeah.
you're probably going to get trying to just do that, like trying to drag a window way over to like
yeah.
Glasses on to see it.
Right.
But is it even like if you look at the panel that close, does it? How panels off axis, the brightness changes and.
There's some of that. There's definitely some of that. Like if you're close to it, the corners can be a little bit different brightness level. Yeah, there's definitely some of that. It's an LED backlit screen, and it's not 100%. That's why it's cheap. It's an inexpensive TV, so I didn't expect it to be that superb. But I will say, like, being close to it, going to PCPer.com and like zooming in, the text stayed sharp like a Retina display iPad would be, type of thing, right? It was impressive to see.
Were there any bad pixels?
Not that I saw. I guess we haven't done a full white screen or full black screen test on it.
Isn't that freaking awesome about panels these days? That generally, like, 5 or 10 years ago, there were websites dedicated to how many bad pixels do you need to be able to return a display to Dell under warranty and blah, blah. And nowadays it's like, I almost can't remember the last time I saw like any new panel with a bad pixel on a laptop or desktop panel.
Yeah, I've got a 3008 that has a lot of stuck, nasty pixels.
Really?
But but that's I bought that 5 years ago when they still had some issues, and it was a refurb. Go figure.
Oh, okay.
Ryan, I have one question for you.
Yes.
How far do you have to stand away from that until you don't really notice anti-alias pixels anymore?
In games or like at?
Yeah, in games.
Not very far. To be honest with you, I think one of the things that people will see as we get to the 4K resolution is that you could, you don't need to enable 8x MSAA anymore. You can do FXAA or TXAA, whatever's cheap and quick for performance, and because they're, you don't get as much benefit out of anti-aliasing at that kind of resolution.
Well, you got to be still pretty far away, otherwise you will notice it close up. It's just it's the whole resolution of. I think
if
you're focusing of your eyes, but still
you can't. I don't think you can use a 50-inch TV on your desk as if it were a monitor. You just can't do it.
I've got
Matt's like what
to get
3
it
feet
all
from the
in.
TV.
You almost.
Why did Bobby go
can do it with that one. Well, okay, so the pixel pitch on that panel is so close to regular desktop pixel pitch that the argument, like Josh, the question you're asking, you could just look at your display right now, and probably that would be, the distance that you back up where you can't notice anymore, probably be similar to that panel.
Yeah, it's just a matter of, can you look to the corners to see where all your files went?
Can you see the corners? Are they even like in your,
Yeah.
Then again, with Eyefinity, if you're doing a 6x, technically your screen size could be bigger.
Oh yeah, that's true. I thought you meant 6 of these.
Oh, no, that.
Well, I imagine that
do have
eventually will
these
come down the line because both AMD and NVIDIA will want you to utilize the full power
Oh yeah.
of their latest graphics cards.
So we're doing 4K testing right now for that very purpose. We're gonna, and I think, we may go down to the lowly GTX 680 and Radeon HD 7970 to get performance numbers. But we started out at Titan levels and kind of said, what can we get that's playable in the 30 to 40 range? And then let's do Titan SLI, so do Titan 3-way, and we'll do this, HD 4000 next, and we'll go from there. But we'll have updates on that as we go, because I think it'll be something that gets used a lot here. Let's keep talking with Allyn. What do you think about ASUS and the RAIDR PCIe SSD? We kind of saw this at CES. I don't know if there's any new information out of it or just some pretty pictures.
It just all it is us begging them to release it in the U.S.
Gotcha.
That's it would be nice to have somebody of ASUS's scale cranking out PCIe SSDs because as many PCBs as those guys make and as much assembly as those guys do, they could probably be very competitive on cost. I would hope. Right, because PCIe SSDs are generally pretty pricey. So, if you put those guys' scale behind something, they could probably make them pretty darn cheap. I would hope.
These look cool too.
Yeah, they look pretty sharp. Actually, they look nicer than any other PCIe SSD I've seen. As far as setup and whatnot. I'd like to know what's under that cover.
You don't even have to market them.
So apparently, according to the specs from SW Sweet Lockers, ASUS is launching 120 and 240 gig versions 100,000 IOPS, 128-bit AES encryption, 620,000 mean time between failure ratings.
It's weird that that's lower than 1 million, but I'm guessing it's because it's a RAID internally, hence the
Yeah,
name.
RAIDR. Yeah.
And if it's a RAID of 2 controllers, then they're probably halving what the MTBF.
What about the 19 nanometer Toshiba MLC that it says it's using?
That is Toshiba. I think that's toggle mode flash. It's just different kind of flash. It's
Okay.
So that doesn't tell you exactly what the controller would be. I'm kind of guessing SandForce because that's very common for PCIe RAID
Yep.
configs. If they were
And it
using something
seems
else,
like
I'd be surprised. Really,
It handles the most types of memory versions out there.
yes, yeah. SandForce is very, very. It is dated, grant you. There are other controllers that are outperforming SandForce these days, but SandForce is the. I mean, I think it's like 6 or 7 different types. It supports styles of or types of flash memory and interfaces for flash memory that like you don't even see shipping. Like
It still
they just
doesn't
basically-
exist.
Yeah, they basically made it just supports everything. So they were really, good design on that part. I just sort of wish that they would come out with a faster one that didn't have the usual round of SandForce bricking the drive firmware bugs.
That would be nice,
they've-
yeah.
that
Do
they've
you
had in the
think
past,
LSI is helping them at all? Or
Or
are we going through a quiet period, much like OCZ when they acquired IndieLinks? It was nothing, 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 and then Vector.
Well, but
which
here's the
kicks
thing:
ass.
Vector still is a very, very fast drive.
I'm saying
You know?
it kicked ass.
Yeah, exactly. So
We don't have to yell at each other, guys.
I don't know.
But I don't like Allyn that
much.
I've had to room
I would
with him.
like to
I was
see.
in the same bed with him at CES. He thought a different part of me was 2 pillows that he was keeping his hands warm in. It was awful. And he didn't apologize. He just
No.
went and washed
You
his
didn't.
hands.
You didn't ask for an apology,
On the
though.
submarine, we never apologize.
Let me ask you this, Alan. Moving on to different topics to change conversation in the direction
Yes,
that was going.
please.
The Western Digital had 2 announcements this week: a new XE hard drive for SAS and Western Digital Blue Series 5mm thin hard drives. Anything interesting in either of those announcements?
The real easy way to sum this up is the Western Digital model is basically a Velociraptor with a SAS interface that's dual channel SAS.
Do we pronounce that Z?
What?
The XE, new XE.
Oh, I don't know. They didn't give any
Pronounced
pronunciation.
Ferdinand.
So,
It's pronounced Ferdinand. Okay, all right, I'll go with that.
so the idea is you have enterprise setups that have some form of a huge, storage area network that probably has SAS drives installed in it, and those are getting kind of hard to find these days.
Yeah.
Just because serial ATA is just sort of more predominant. But if you're stuck with SAS as your interface, and
No.
and you don't really have any other choice, and your drives are failing, then this is a good way to go. And they're 2.5-inch drives in a 3.5-inch heatsink enclosure, which is that heatsink is way overkill compared to, the fact that those drives are relatively very low power compared to a 3.5-inch, full size hard drive. So, it's decent. They're going to make it in 300, 600, 900 gig capacities, which I'm guessing that's lower than you see in the Velociraptor, even though it's the same kind of layout.
Yeah.
It's probably lower because they're probably, the track geometry is probably more organized or more optimized for pure enterprise use. Like they're just trying to make it so that, you can adjust the width of the track versus the length of the track, so to
Right.
speak, to give yourself, higher straight line throughput on the drive, which is probably what they did here. So that's going to lower the capacity, So it's not like a 1
Okay.
terabyte. for
What
a
about on the thin drive stuff?
Oh, so the thin drives are basically just a Western Digital Blue.
It's one thin little wafer.
Yeah, it's a Western Digital Blue Series 2.5-inch laptop drive, except it's really, really thin. I mean, 5mm. You're talking less than half the thickness of.
We assume a single
Of
block,
Allyn.
right?
right at half the thickness of standard, laptop hard drives. You can actually, in
Think
theory,
of it as Allyn with 2 days hair growth.
Yeah. Okay, so in order to do this, it's so thin they couldn't even have a standard serial ATA style connector on the thing and still pull it off. So it has this new what is it? Standard form factor 8784. It's like
F8784 edge connector.
yeah, it's an edge
Catchy.
connector. So now, what's weird about this is you pretty much where are you going to put this, right? Because you can't just upgrade. Josh, you kill me. You can't just upgrade your laptop with this because you don't have that kind of connector, right? So it's going to have to be something where laptops are using. His forehead turned red. Look at that;
Yeah.
it's redder than his maroon shirt. Yeah, he's like a thermometer, just like kind of like cartoony.
It's gonna pop.
Yeah. So really, the laptop has to be
Built for it.
built for it.
Yeah.
And I don't see companies building laptops yet for one single model from Western Digital of a mobile hard drive. So this is going to be much more along the lines of an OEM style thing, where if some company is making a laptop that they want to be extremely thin, I'm thinking maybe some form of the tablet PCs is what they're going for. They're trying to make it so you have more storage in a, really small, thin tablet running Windows or
Sure.
whatnot, that kind of thing. That's my guess, because really it's only a couple more millimeters for the regular drive, and even Ultrabooks can spare a couple of millimeters in just that 2.5 inch
Okay.
width bay. So this must be for something really, really thin. So it's weird to see a press release like this for it almost sounds like it's retail, because they even give you an MSRP, right? But you're gonna buy it
I
to
gotcha.
put to plug into what? There's just you don't
It's
have
the
it.
next generation of Ultrabook.
Maybe, but
Either that or Heather is going to take us out fishing and we're going to skip these across the lake. But nobody's going to show up because they're too hungover.
So like ET cartridges.
yeah, just $89 rocks to skip across the lake.
All right, let's move on. Speaking of $80, actually it's just 70. Apparently, you can get a Retina display for $70, and using soldering equipment, make a monitor out of it. Jeremy, did you see any of this? Jeremy, did we lose Jeremy?
Yes, I certainly did. Sorry, I was muted because I was typing.
Canada.
Oh, we gotcha.
Yeah. No, this is actually a beautiful, beautiful hack because, hey, Eyefinity, here I come. Little tiny thin bezel, a wonderful resolution, which, I mean, you're probably going to have to fight a bit to get 2048 by 1536 to work, but,
Okay.
Hey, I'm pretty sure it can be doable. But, for $70, which is essentially including buying this part, which is a specific LG part that you can buy, and a connector, boom, it's going to work on DisplayPort,
That's
which
kinda
is
awesome.
just hilarious. You can hook up as many Retina connector or Retina screens as you can
So
to a PC.
could we hook this up to like a 6 output Eyefinity graphics card?
I don't see why not.
That
And-
and the touchscreen has car PC written all over it.
The bezels, it looks like it has fairly thin bezels. You can just break those off, probably.
Well, you can. I don't know if it's going to work so well after, but
Okay.
Isn't that the bare screen uninstalled? So I think if you
Yes.
break those bezels off, you're basically taking
Well,
LCD with it.
It's worth a shot.
yeah. Hey, it's $70. It's not like you're destroying an iPad.
Yeah, that's true. $70. That's good. That's kind of
But no, it's a
that's kind of
brilliant
interesting.
hack, and I highly recommend people consider it because
What kind of power does
have
it
a f-
take? Does it say that?
it did not. I think I saw it in the main article.
We can use these as camera monitors?
Oh,
Wow.
Well, HDMI to DisplayPort. Could do that.
yeah.
Yeah. Other
Or 3.3 volt at a half an amp.
That's not a lot at all.
It's not a lot.
No, it's not.
We can do that. Apparently,
Did you skip Raja?
Yes.
Or did you want to? Okay.
well, let's bring it up now that you brought it up. Tell me
Okay.
what
Yeah.
happened, Josh.
Raja came back to AMD. He was one of the CTOs
Yep.
of ATI.
It's-
There
yeah.
for a long time.
He
I
left.
remember chatting. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say he left and went to Apple for 4 years.
Yeah.
Came back just this week actually, and it's at least the second fairly recent return
Yeah.
of
Jim
executive.
Keller being the first big one.
Yeah, and it's a lot of people say that they're worried about AMD going out of business, that there's a lot of things. I don't think you get people of that caliber to come back to a sinking ship, right?
No, I think that they were given a pretty. I mean, I don't think they're in it for making the money.
I don't think so.
I think that they have been shown the foundation of what AMD is trying to do under Rory Reed, and saying this is where we plan to go. We can make a huge difference. Are you willing to come back? And both of those guys who were sitting at Apple, who has 200 billion or something in the bank. Yeah,
They should
I mean,
donate to
talk
my
about
Indiegogo.
a ship that is not sinking,
Yeah.
and come back to AMD. And I mean, they're there to work, and they're there to make a difference, and they obviously believe in what they're doing because they came back.
Yeah, I think it's very, very good news for the company to have people of that caliber return, right? And it's not. Yeah,
I cannot, for the life of me, remember the other guy who really pushed for the smaller die size, less features, but still really, really competitive. Do you remember his name? He was in the ATI side, and then he took off.
a while
He was
ago.
one of the, no, about 2 years ago.
Eric Demers.
No, it wasn't Deemer. It was the guy right before him that Deemers took the.
Yeah.
I cannot remember his name. I know Anantech did a big deal on him and
think
why
he
they
went
did the
to-
reasons they did. But anyway, it'd be great if he can come back too because he was pretty snazzy. But anyway,
The more the
Raja,
merrier.
he's a great addition
Yeah.
to the team.
Yeah, I like him a lot. I've known him for a while.
Raja.
Worked with him on a lot of stuff, so that's good news. Another maybe potential good news for AMD is the Never Settle Reloaded gaming bundles continue. This is a leaked slide, marked confidential, but I didn't leak it, so I don't care. And apparently, so the top is all the games that are in there now, and apparently games coming this year include Grid 2, Company of Heroes 2, Rome Total War 2, Splinter Cell Blacklist, Lost Planet 3, Battlefield 4, Raven's Cry, which I had never heard of till this slide, and Watch Dogs are games apparently coming at some point to the Never Settle Gaming Evolved
I
roadmap.
really want Grid 2.
I know, you're a racing fanatic. I still have
Not
my
fanatic.
racing wheel in the closet, waiting for the time where you demand we play that game.
Let's play that game tonight, Ryan.
I don't have Grid 2 yet because I do not
Well,
believe it is
no, but
available.
we do have Dirt Showdown.
No.
Oh, 4K.
Ooh. No.
Oh.
Maybe once all of our testing's done. No. Okay, our last bit of news. Jeremy wants to tell us about Sound Blaster still being alive.
It is. It's an audiophiles game now. It's not the sound card that you buy to add into your PC. It's when you've got high-end speakers and you're more than happy to drop $250 on something that is, to be completely honest, worth it. Because, I mean, not only are you getting the card, you get an add-on module and a controller that sits at the front, which have two different digital audio converters built into it. Proper 1.25 and 3.5 inch mil, or 3.5 millimeter plugs for audiophile level headsets. So if you've got studio headsets, this is the kind of thing you're looking at.
Is that a parallel ribbon cable?
It certainly looks like it, doesn't it? They're calling it some sort of proprietary connector. I'm thinking, I'm sorry, it's just a serial ribbon connector.
There's only tens of millions of those just hanging
Oh,
around
yeah.
not being used.
It's 20 pin. Which one was 20? Which one was 20?
I think
pin?
that's
floppy.
That's a floppy.
Is that a
Yeah,
floppy
that-
cable?
Don't copy that floppy.
It doesn't have the crossed connectors, but apart from
Yeah,
that,
but that's
a
only
floppy.
because you don't have two extra outputs with
Exactly.
one input.
But, I mean, if you actually have high-end speakers, then this is going to be worth it. If you just have normal speakers and
What if I have
a
free
normal ear,
Korean speakers from the manufacturer known as Genius?
it
I've got a
might
pair of
help.
those too, and they suck.
Audio launch.
Yeah, they do.
And the only other use for it is it's got a very good line in. So if you're an aspiring musical artist and you want to be able to lay down tracks,
Word dog.
that is actually going to enable you to record a single instrument at a time and do it in a very high quality fashion. So hey, if you are an audiophile, if you do not blink at spending $250 on something that's worth it, and by that I mean you don't buy monster cables, hey, Sound Blaster is still around.
All right. Hold on. I'm supposed to bring up this picture. Hang on. So this is our audio gear that we're using now for the podcast. See, my pick of the week last week was one of those PV USBPs. Now we've got 3. And what is this one?
And you're overheating the component in the bottom.
That's a Focusrite.
Yep. And I think you've already killed one of them because the labeling starts at 2, doesn't it?
Yeah, but the bottom one is DAC 1.
Oh.
See, so, all right. Okay, that is going to wrap up our news. We're going to get our picks of the week in very quickly here. Mine is a cheater. We're not even going to bring up pictures of it. I'm recommending, my pick is the Seiki 50-inch 4K TV. Never mind. I don't know what you said, so I'm just going to click this link. The model number is SE50UY04. Very catchy. So that for $1,300, if you need a new TV anyway.
Look at my horse.
It might be
amazing.
a piss poor choice, and I don't know for sure. But that's my pick as somebody who's excited about this stuff, and I have the capability to, to write that off as a 4K testing device, which it is. Very realistically. Jeremy, what do you got? Why are there 3 links in your pick? Which link do I click?
The last one.
Okay.
Is for the paranoid people. I woke up this morning to a wonderful piece of idiocy. Our CBC was declaring that, oh my God, a Samsung Galaxy 3 can scan your credit card while it's still in your pocket.
I hate people.
I'm thinking is near-field communications is a feature. It's not a bug. It's been around for years. This is not news, people. Why are you telling me that this is something to panic about? And I guarantee that they probably got it from Associated Press. Everyone's going to pick it up. Oh my God, people are stealing your credit card information from your pocket. Well, if you are that paranoid, Google has put out an app years ago called the Electronic Pickpocket. And essentially all it will do is quickly scan using a phone with RFID on it.
Yeah.
To see if it can read the account number off of your card. If it can, oh God, well, never do the pay by bump thing because apparently that's too conceptually difficult for you.
Set phone on card.
Otherwise, build yourself a Faraday cage, use it as a wallet,
incestuous.
and walk
Can I see
around.
your credit card for a second? Why? No reason.
I'm going to set this card on my phone. I'm going to rub it back and forth quickly. Don't notice the sounds I'm making.
Oh.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So, don't fear near-field communication. We've been talking about it for a long time. In some ways, we've been looking at it, and for the most part, you can't actually get much more than your bank account number, which is not enough, people.
Damn it. All right, Josh, what do you got? Something on eBay.
Yeah. This was my first high-performance video card. I either sold it or gave it away. I want it back.
Buy it for $15.
I want it back. The STB Lightspeed 128 PCI 2.5. It's 2.5 megabytes of MD RAM.
They have 8 of them available. You could buy one for $15.
I probably will.
Make an offer for $350.
See if
Yeah,
I'll
it's
take it.
refurbished. Come on, you can talk them down.
Yeah, that was a fantastic. I paired that with my original Orchid Righteous 3D.
Buy these.
Fantastic
You buy
combination.
all these, Josh, and we'll sign them and sell them off for our Indiegogo project.
Okay.
I don't know where you sign this exactly.
On the back.
I guess.
Plenty of space.
Which version of Mech Warrior do you have to run in order to
It's
correctly
the Mech
use
Warrior 2 3DFX edition.
the 3DFX? Yes, the 3DFX.
Yeah.
All right, Allyn.
Somewhere I have all 4 versions of Pat on disc. I don't know.
Not surprising.
But I've got Mercenaries 3DFX.
Yeah, there was one for
Oh,
S3
nice.
Verge.
That's a
There was
good
one
one.
for 3DFX.
Had the
you know.
Lava Planet.
Ooh.
Allyn,
there
what
was
is
a-
your Allyn? We're on to you. What do you got?
Okay, so you have like an ioSafe, maybe if you're all concerned about like your house burning down or whatever. Well, recently I ran around looking for my passport. Had no idea where the heck I put the darn thing, and I was like,
You
I
should put that in a fire safe box.
I should put it in like a fire safe box, and then all my important stuff will be in like a box, so I know where it's at, and it'll
So
be
you can
fire
have
safe.
them.
So that I can have them. So I just looked on Amazon. It's like $17. There's like one that's the right size for documents and stuff.
This was, I recommend everybody get this. My house has never burned down, but this was like I think like housewarming gift I got from my dad or something like that. He's like,
And you
okay,
use it all the time,
you're an
right?
old man. This is where you put your car titles and your house deed and
That's my underwear drawer.
that kind of stuff. Ken keeps his underwear in it,
My
the
wife's
kid.
thongs.
That's the kid versus the old people.
but only
Is
because you
on
want to hide them.
fire.
All
Right.
right.
I think there's benefit to this just in the purely organizational sense, even as opposed to, you know.
So
And then if
Tim,
your house happens to burn down, at least you'll still have that
Yeah.
stuff.
now we have a pick from.
And here I thought you always put it in your
a-
ioSafe.
You just
I
shove it
would
in the
if it would
back.
fit, but you know,
Take it, so to speak. Now, we have another pick this week from Tim Very, who does a lot of news posts for us and stuff. He's not on the show, but he's very adamant that he wanted us to show the BitTorrent sync, automatically sync files via secure distributed technology. I know nothing about what this is, other than I can read the box. I can read the box labels. Sync and share. Sync unlimited files between your own devices or share a folder with friends and family to automatically sync anything. File transfers are encrypted. Your information is never stored on a server in the cloud, and your data is protected. Bigger is better. BitTorrent Sync is specifically designed to handle large files, so feel free to sync original, high-quality, uncompressed game RARs. I mean, uncompressed files. Uncompressed files. So apparently this is a client that you run, and I guess it's sort of like Dropbox. It's sort of like Google Drive that you get to share files, but it uses BitTorrent technology.
Because, you know, BitTorrent is never used for legit purposes.
Right.
Ever. Now.
And there's encryption and there's security, and I like this idea. I like the idea of not paying for something like Dropbox when I have bandwidth. You know, we have 30 meg service here. I'm comfortable, allowing my computer at home to download from here most of the time and that kind of stuff. So, you know, I could see this being a pretty interesting thing. Oh, no, I see a config file. Oh, no.
Oh.
Nuts.
Oh, jeez.
You'd rather have a EULA? We will keep a copy of every single thing that you put up there
Now,
forever.
there's no the web UI apparently doesn't exist. I don't know. There it is. All right. So check that out. That is at what's
Does
the
it have all kinds of emoticons through it?
no emojis? I'm sorry.
No.
labs.bittorrent.com/experiments/sync.html. Just Google BitTorrent sync, and you will probably get
Or go to some website that does hardware reviews that might have a link to it.
PCPer.com.
That's it, yeah.
All right. So that's going to wrap up.
No, it's not going to wrap up yet.
Okay.
Are you ready for a little retro? I mean, extremely retro with this one.
Uh-oh.
Is it an 8086?
With a single pin interface?
It's this. Look at the thing at the bottom.
Oh, ISA.
That is definitely...
It's a
What are those chips?
Labs
You can count the pins on the SD video stream.
4000AX.
What is that?
It's one of the first accelerated ISA
Yeah.
video cards.
Who made that again?
This is a Cardex.
Right.
I mean, you can look at the two BIOS chips at the bottom.
They're a little too shiny, I can't quite make them out.
I like devices that look like I could have made them in engineering class.
And this essentially
You
is
might have.
something that you could have. I pulled this out of
is
a
that
working
here?
machine.
Is that
at work.
ASIC or FPGA?
I think
Must
it's
be
an
ASIC.
FPGA. But it's not BGA. It's all the
Right.
It's the side.
The side solder. Side
Yes.
pins. Those were much easier to damage.
Yeah, this was it's a neat card at the time.
I will take
yeah.
your word for it. I'll take your word for
Back
it.
in the days when we wished for a super VGA.
Exactly.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap up the show for us this week. Thank you, everybody, for hanging out. It ran a little bit late. We started a little bit late, but we like to talk. What can I say? If you want to join us live, pcper.com/live is the URL for that. Wednesdays at 10 p.m. Eastern. And of course, if you're getting this after the fact, we love you too. PCPer.com/podcast is the URL we want you to share. Post it all over the internet. Maybe write it down on walls in bathrooms and stuff. That whatever works. We're just trying to get the word out. We're not really picky. And as a final reminder, a huge thanks to anybody that contributed to our Indiegogo project to help us kind of rebuild and refund not refund. That's not the right. We're not giving money back to anybody in this. We're crowdfunding and reconstructing our office for better, more efficient video production. We want to do new kinds of video, new shows, new things, and we really need this kind of jumpstart to get us going in the right direction. So if you've already donated, thank you a ton. And if you haven't, please consider it. If you listen to the show, if you like our articles, if you think what we do has any kind of value, let us know. It could be $1, it could be $5, it could be $5,000, whatever you want it to be. Even $1 is important because it shows interest, right? It shows the more number of backers we have. So we're not only relegated to people who can afford $25, $50, or $100 or more dollars or anything like that. So we really appreciate all the support you guys have given us over the last week on that. It's been damn impressive. So
Electronic operators are standing by to take your packets.
all right, so we'll be back next week. Another great show. I guarantee it. What can I say? It's going to be amazing. I'm Ryan Shrout.
I'm Jeremy Hellstrom.
I'm Josh Walrath.
I'm Alan Malventano.
Thanks, guys.